Is Sony about to release a new vlogging camera? A vlogging camera that's based off of the same specifications that we saw in the Sony a7S III, a camera that came out in 2020. The same specifications in the FX3 as well as the FX30, but leaving out one major thing. It's not getting that 4K 120, and it's not getting the new autofocus system found in the Sony a7R5. Details coming up, but first, please do me a favor. Follow me on Twitter, subscribe, share, choose all notifications, like, comment, and all that good stuff. It's greatly appreciated. It means a lot to me, and it really helps this channel grow. This is turning out to be a very exciting first half of 2023. It started out with Panasonic delivering their first ever full-frame camera in the S5 Mark II that had a phase detect autofocus system. And then, of course, a few weeks later, Canon released two new cameras, the R8 and the R50, and for the first time, what it seemed like in a long time, Canon released cameras that weren't heavily cripple hammered, that didn't need 10 different firmware updates to deliver a solid camera. But 2023 is far from over. We're expecting many new cameras. 3 new Sony cameras have been registered, and we're going to talk about one of those in this video. We're also expecting at least 2 Nikon cameras, and Canon isn't done yet with a new firmware update to be coming out. And Panasonic, well, we're expecting a refresh of the S1, the S1R, or even the S1H. But let's get back to Sony. According to Sony Alpha Rumours, a trusted source told me the specs for the new Sony ZV-E1 camera, but he said that the camera name was the ZV-E. But after posting my article, another source came up to me and said the name is actually the ZV-E1. So does this mean we're getting 2 camera models, a ZV-E and a ZV-E1? One that's all black and one that's got a combination of black and silver? Well, it's certainly plausible. Fuji does this, and they're not the only ones to do this. But according to Sony Alpha Rumours, we're only getting 1 camera model, and it's the ZV-E1. But what he said is he was told the specs for this new camera. Sounds great, right? Well, he didn't list them all off. Now, he did say that this new camera, the ZV-E1, is going to be based off of the Sony a7S III, which the FX3 was based off of that. And of course, an APS-C version of the FX3 and the FX30 was based off of that as well. The specs for this new camera, it's going to have a 12 megapixel sensor, no surprises there. I don't know if it's going to be a 12.1 or a 12.2. And in terms of video resolutions, this is where it gets a little bit interesting. According to Sony Alpha Rumours, it's only going to be able to do 4K and all the basic frame rates, 24, 25, and 30, and no, there's more, as well as 50 and 60 frames per second. But there's going to be no 4K at 120 frames per second when the camera is being released. Although we are supposed to get 4K at 120 frames per second, well, before summer in a firmware update, or during summer in a firmware update. This is really surprising to me because when we got the Sony a7S III, we didn't have to wait for a firmware update to get 4K 120. And when the FX3 came out, again, no wait. And the FX30, even though it's using a different sensor, no wait. So why would it be that we have to wait for 4K 120 on this camera? Seems a little odd, doesn't it? The ISO range is going to be extended up to 409,000, and the autofocus system, get ready for this one, it's not going to have the brand new autofocus system found in the Sony a7R5. And yes, I know it does have a dedicated AI chip, but according to Sony Alpha Rumours, it's going to have the exact same autofocus system that's found in the Sony a7 IV, and a very popular camera. It does very, very well. And I get that the Sony a7R5 does have a dedicated AI chip, but there's no reason why it couldn't have an updated autofocus system, just not borrowing off of that, AI chip. I mean, after all, Canon in their firmware updates or in their cameras, the 1DX Mark III and all cameras that came since have AI deep learning in their cameras. It's just done through software or firmware in that matter. A different type of autofocus system. A different type of autofocus system for one set of cameras versus another? Yeah, I'm definitely not too sure how I feel about that, but how do you feel? How do you feel that if this new camera, the ZV-E1, just gets the same autofocus system found in the Sony a7 IV without any update? Would you feel a little bit left out, or are you saying, well, you know what, Sony produces a very good autofocus system, and the a7 IV was no slacker in that regard? That's it for specs. No mention of whether it would have a single card slot, dual card slots, whether it would have CF Express Type A card slot, so that dual UHS 2 or CF Express Type A. And definitely this camera would not get a CF Express Type B if Sony decided to switch to that anytime soon. But what about price? Well, it doesn't mention the price, but this is going to be a high-end camera, so you can look at the pricing of existing Sony ZV cameras to give you an idea of what the price point for this camera would be. I don't expect Sony to come in with a lower price, so we're probably looking at somewhere north of $1,000, but not too far north of $1,000. And in terms of design, Well, according to Sony Alpha Rumors, this new camera, the Sony ZV-E1 or E, is going to be a cross between the Sony a7C, hence the photo that I have in the thumbnail, and the FX3. So very interesting. The FX3 is definitely a thicker body, a larger body, and the a7C, well, it's a more compact body, so maybe it's going to have that same look, but not to the same scale. Very interesting. So what do you think of this new camera, the Sony ZV-E1, if I can actually say it properly? I was always impressed with that first one that came out. I love what Sony does with the autofocus system. They not only do a really good job with their autofocus system, but they also tie it in with auto exposure. So as you're moving from dark to light or light to dark, it's focusing on you, the subject, and exposing as best as it can. And I really love that it does that. I wish Canon would do that in its cameras because I think it would make the experience a whole lot better. So good job, Sony. And if you're just looking at getting a single camera and you don't want to spend a lot of money and you're looking at vlogging cameras, you're even considering the Canon E50, Canon E50, the Canon R50, getting it mixed up with Sony's E-mount. You also want to take a look at what Sony's going to do with this camera here, the ZV-E1, because it could potentially be a very good camera. But when is this camera coming out? Well, a couple of weeks ago, I put out a story about 3 registered cameras by Sony. What that usually means is within 1 to 3 months, we're going to get an announcement. And because that was almost a month ago, well, the announcement could be imminent. We could get something this week, although with spring break going on right now in much of North America, or March break as it's called here in Canada, there's a little bit of a doubt as to, well, if this is going to happen or not. I would probably expect that maybe something would happen after. I mean, we never got announcements in the summer before, right? But then in 2020, we got the Canon R5 and the Sony a7S III. So keep an eye out. I think March is far from being over. I think we're going to get some more announcements in March, probably towards the end of March, and also we're going to get, oh my God, I can't speak this morning. And we're also going to get teased by Nikon. They said save the date for March the 25th or 23rd. I can't remember, but you can see the image right here. So Nikon is going to do something on this date. Now that's either a Friday or a Saturday, so I don't expect a camera announcement. But if you think of what Nikon did with the Z9, they started teasing several weeks ahead of time, actually 4 weeks before the actual Z9 announcement. They started teasing with videos, so I wouldn't be surprised if they do the same thing with the Z8, because the Z8 is a high-end camera and it would warrant all the hype. So very interesting. I think we're going to have a very exciting first half. It's already been exciting. We got a Panasonic S5 Mark II with a brand new phase detect autofocus system. Boy, if that's not enough to get you excited about Panasonic and cameras, I don't know what will. We got 2 new Canon cameras that, well, have buried the cripple hammer. We've got 3 Sony cameras coming. We've got at least 2 Nikon cameras coming. And most likely we're going to have a refresh from Panasonic of their S-series, their high-end S-series like the S1, the S1R, the S1H, a big firmware update for the Canon R5. I mean, I could go on. So lots of exciting stuff to come out, but I've got to start working a couple of hours. So I've got to end this now, edit it, and get it out for you. And but thank you so much for watching this channel. It's greatly appreciated. And if you want to stay up to date on the latest news and rumors, make sure you subscribe and choose all notifications. And by choosing all notifications, as soon as I publish a new video like this one here, you'll get notified. Just make sure you check your spam and junk folder, because a lot of times these emails end up showing in there. And if you want to stay up to date on all the minor news and rumors, well, follow me on Twitter. And a special thanks to everybody out there who helped support a friend of mine, Chuck over at AP Studios. He's at 930 subscribers as of this morning. He was 877 just this weekend. Please do me a favor. Go ahead and subscribe to his channel. Help him get monetized, or monetized, because at 1,000 subscribers, he's got more than enough hours. It'll get him monetized, and he does a great job. He's one of those YouTubers that isn't about influencing. He's about providing value to the community, and he does 2 live streams a week. So please do me a favor. Just go ahead and subscribe to his channel. It's much appreciated. But that's it for now. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you again soon.